Welcome to the Accounting Arc Podcast, where analysis, reaction, and comedy collide to tackle the big topics from the world of accounting and beyond. Join our trio of transformation agents as they discuss the hottest topics in and out of the profession, from breaking down industry trends, to reacting to everyday events, to uncovering the hidden humor in numbers. With wisdom, insight, and a dash of levity, they're proving that accounting isn't just about the numbers. It's about life. Because after all, accounting is in everything. The Accounting Arc Podcast starts now.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode. This is part of the series where we are looking at non-traditional accountants. And today I am here with Baria, and I'm gonna let you tell us a little bit more about what you do. So can you start off with just kind of who you are, where you're located, and what kind of work do you do?
Well, first, thank you so much for having me here, Donny. It's a pleasure to be with you, and I'm really looking forward to doing this podcast. So my name is Baria Jaroudi, and the way you say my name is like Maria with a B instead of M, and it's Jaroudi. And I'm located in Houston, and I work in business valuation and advisory. I currently serve as a director at BDO Houston office, and my work involves basically in helping businesses and business owners understand what the value of their business is. Whether it's, I used to do it for various purposes. Right now, I'm doing it only for family law and divorce. But I've used to do it for, when business owners are preparing to sell or going through a legal dispute or planning for the future or doing estate planning. What I get to do is blend technical expertise with a human approach, which I really like, because what you do, you really get to, in the type of work that I do, you have to have a deep, dive into the business and their operations. And personally, I have deep love of teaching, whether it's mentoring newer professionals or speaking or breaking down concepts to clients, which make it make sense for them. So I like to think of myself as someone who brings clarity and calm in moments that can otherwise feel overwhelming.
Wow, I like that, especially that tail end there. One of the things that I always say is, as accountants, one of the things we deliver is peace of mind. And so it sounds like this especially when you say clarity and calm, that sounds like a great an analogy there. Now you mentioned so you said business valuation, kind of what's the business worth. Help us understand a little bit, how is that actually different from, say, an audit? Is it because are we just looking at equity? Because that's what I kind of think of, right? That's what they say. Well, what's left in the business is the equity. How is valuation different, especially business valuation?
So business valuation is very different from audit. So the way I kind of see business valuation, it's very non-traditional. And what you're doing is you're kind of looking at what is the story behind the numbers of the business. You're kind of get to understand the business, the operations, the decision process. You try to kind of critically solve problems for the business owners and help them find what they've built, what is the worth of what they've built. Because to business owners, this is their baby. This is what they really put all their sweat equity in. This is what they've built for their whole life. And this is what they've lived for. This is their legacy. And being able to really dive into that business, know about their operation, know about the story behind the numbers, and helping the business owner know what the value of their business is. That's what it's all about. Whether an audit, I can't speak to audit because I'm not an auditor, but the way I can speak to business valuation, that it's not, no two businesses, are the same. They're very different. You can look at two businesses that have the same revenue, they're in the same city, but one is worth maybe 3 times more than the other. And really, it goes back to a lot of different factors that we kind of dive into when we do business valuation.
Now, as I hear you describe that, it almost sounds like finance, where like I'm figuring out investments and what I'm going to invest in. Can you perhaps differentiate what you do compared to what we would normally see in the finance side, or someone working at Morgan Sachs or Morgan Stanley or Sachs or something?
So the way it's different when we do it is, for instance, we look at what the value, when we're looking at a business, we're going to look at what is the minimum value that the business can sell for. Okay. And one of the things we look at, we take a deep dive into, is their balance sheet. I'm not going to go into business valuation terminology. So we dive into the balance sheet because it gives you a floor value for the business. And what does that mean? It means that you look at the assets. What is the fair market value of the assets? What is the fair market value of the liabilities? If you get those to fair market value, you pay off the debt of the business. What is left for the owners? This is the floor value for any business. So that's one thing we look at. Another thing we look at is business valuation is a looking forward approach. So we look at what is the business going to do into perpetuity? What is it going to be? What is the cash flow going to be? What value it's going to bring to the shareholders? And really the value kind of lies into that cash flow, because if you have two same businesses, one that has good cash flow, one that's really not making much, that value is going to really differ, because what we're looking at is what cash flow does this business bring? Another thing we look at is, we look at the market. Did other similar businesses in the same industry sell recently? What did they sell for? What multiples did they sell for of EBITDA? It's earning before interest, depreciation, taxes, and depreciation. Or what is it, what multiple did it sell for of revenue? Is it 1 times revenue? Is it 1.5 or 0.5 of revenue? So we look at that as well. And then we take a step back, and then we look at everything again, and we say, what makes sense? Are there indiscrepancies between the different values that we just came up with? Or do these values align? And if they don't align, why? Is there something that probably we need to look further, deeper into? One of the things we do, and it's very important in the process, we do not come up with our own assumptions. We always interview management, and we need to get what's management vision of the business going forward. While we do that, we do keep in mind that each business owner may have an end goal depending on the purpose of their valuation. So if supposedly a business owner is doing it for gift and estate, and they want a lower value so they don't pay tax on it. Sometimes maybe we're working on the wife's side or on the husband's side. One of them wants a higher or a lower value. So we keep that in mind, and we always ask the why. We always ask, we don't take an answer and say, okay, and move on. We need to understand why. Why is it like this? Can you explain? We need to be able to take a position that we can support, regardless of what the owner may have in mind, because we're not going to be biased in our approach. What we really look into is come up with a value that's going to be fair, and it's going to be the same approach whether we are on a husband's side or a wife's side, or no matter what the owner has in mind, our approach is going to be consistent,
That makes
because
sense.
we don't want to impact the value based on the business owner's motives.
Right, right. So now, because at first, as you were talking through that, I was thinking like, well, why do we as accountants, or especially in this case as CPAs, need to do this type of stuff? It's coming back to the independence and our judgment, I think is what I'm hearing you say.
Yes.
So are you a CPA? What other types, what's your background and how did you come to do this type of work?
Okay, yes. That's a very I love this question. I get, I get to be asked this question many times, and specifically about being a CPA, being a second career. Uh, so I am a CPA, and I'm also an ABV, which is accredited in business valuation from the AICPA. I'm a CVA, which is Certified Valuation Analyst with NACFA, and I'm a CBA, which is Certified Business Appraiser. This was with the IBA, but the IBA, Institute of Business Appraisers, got acquired by NACFA. So it's a designation under NACFA now as well. So I started my career as a Montessori teacher. And I was a Montessori teacher for 10 years for elementary students. However, the reason I started in being a teacher is because I had children and they were young. I wanted to work, but I wanted to be with my kids during the summer, so I chose teaching. My degree was in accounting before I had children, and my end goal was I want to be an accountant, but I never got to work in accounting. So after my kids grew out of the private Montessori school, I was like, I need to, get back to what I want to do, what I had in mind. So I sat for the CPA exam. I quit teaching in 2008 and sat for the CPA exam. Took me a year and a half. I passed all 4 sections. And by end of 2009, I went and interviewed with a local CPA firm and I got a job, but I had zero experience. So if you ask me about how was the CPA journey, I would say it was like literally moving a mountain from one side to the other, but moving it one rock at a time. That's how it felt. And why did it feel this way? Because when I sat for the CPA exam in 2008, I graduated 15 years ago from school and then never had experience in accounting. When I learned accounting back in school, it was in Arabic. So you can imagine what I had to teach myself to pass the CPA exam, because I had to really I got all the books and I had to kind of teach myself the basics all over again, and the debits and credits and the, beginning accounting, intermediate accounting, while I'm studying for the CPA exam. And, I did it. The thing that you want to really keep in mind whenever you're aiming for something is if someone else can do it, you can do it as well. And really, that's how I ended up. The first person that I worked for, he did business valuation, and I loved it. I fell in love with it. The reason I liked it because it was so diverse. Personally, if I do something that is like a cookie cutter, I get bored. I want challenges every day. And with business valuation, it's very interesting. You really have to put on your thinking hat every time you're valuing a business. You need to think, okay, what now? How do I need to approach this? No 2 businesses are the same. It's not like, okay, I'm going to do this, this, and this, and it's going to be the same. It is not. So it is extremely interesting. And then you get to learn about the story behind the business. How, like I was talking to a client, he started his company from a garage and, he was able to grow it. And it was, it was a law firm and he has like 150 employees now. It's very like mind-blowing to be able to, and humbling to be able to understand and know the background of these, each business, and see how, just their story and be able to put numbers behind the story.
I think in accounting that we too often forget that we have to put our own mask on first, like in an airplane, right? Put our own mask on first before we help others. And our whole thing is, oh, there's clients, I got to help the clients, I got to do all this stuff. And we're giving so much of ourselves that we're not taking that time to take care of ourselves. It's part of the reason why at the center we created this whole personal resilience program, which is really, for you to be that strong rock and foundation for the clients, you need to be solid yourself first. So it really is a matter of taking care of ourselves, and then we can take care of others. In fact, we can take care of more others the stronger that we are as a foundation. And that's also why a lot of what we do is based in teams, because then even if you're faltering, some of the teammates can jump in to cover or to allow you the time to rest so that you can rest, but we're still holding everybody up. So that's why I think working together in a team is so important, as well as taking care of yourself.
I like that. I often think of when I think of business valuation, I think of investments, which is kind of why I thought of, audit and finance, and that's like the public company
Mhm.
side. Hearing you really talk about small business, which is also my passion, you're right. I didn't think about it that way too, is that there is always a story behind a business. Why did they start this? What was their journey as an entrepreneur? What are their challenges now? What do they see for the future? Like you mentioned as well, this is not just, well, we're going to keep doing our business and going global and doing all this kind of stuff. It's like, there's really a personal story behind there.
It is. And that's really to me, that's my passion. Yeah.
So one of the things that we always kind of talk about is, accountants often um, can be sort of a hero to their clients.
Mhm.
In your work, have you ever felt like you've saved the day for a client? Could you perhaps share an example with us?
Of course, there are certain, many instances. One of them that really touched me was there was a small business owner that had a chiropractor clinic, and she wanted to retire and sell her business to somebody who worked with her. And I helped her through that process. And it was very important to her to get a good value and to give the employee that was buying it a fair value at the same time. So it was very rewarding because I got to meet constantly with both her and her employee and be very transparent in the process, ask her questions, ask him questions. And at the end, she was extremely grateful. She sent me a card. She called, when Sheila was the managing partner, she called Sheila. It was very rewarding. Just being able to help during that process. Um, I think that's something that I really like.
Oh, that warms my heart as well.
Yeah.
Especially now, there's so many businesses that need to go through these types of transitions. We There's a lot of movies out now that it's all about superheroes, and that's kind of like the comics coming to life. But what do you think makes up a real life superhero?
I think what makes a real life superhero is being consistent, showing up, listen with empathy, and listen deeply, specifically where things are hard. Because, everything has challenges, but when you're very determined and you're being consistent, really that's what's going to make a difference. For example, for me, back then I didn't like to do divorce work. I didn't. I felt it was contentious. I didn't like just the feeling when there's a lot of emotions involved. But then I came to realize that, what, somebody has to do the work. Someone has to do it, and they need to do it right. And, that's like why now I'm doing divorce work, because it's someone has to do it. And there are a lot of people out there. It's unfortunate, but sometimes they try and be advocate to their clients, which in our profession, we're advocate to our own opinion. We don't represent a party. We represent our own opinion. And it's very important that when doing something, it's done objectively and it's done without bias. So I think it's important, to, even though maybe you don't like certain aspects of the contentious process or certain aspects of those very strong emotions that, go along with this, but it's showing up consistently and listening deeply. And that's going to make a difference for someone out there, because whether it's husband or wife, this is it's a very difficult time for both of them. And just being there and making this process a little easier, I think this is what it's all about.
I really like your answer because it really lends towards, well, and you also didn't mention any technical skills in there. So it's really about that human element that you keep
Right.
bringing up. I often think too is the difference between those of us that are great accountants rather than you're just okay ones who are only sitting there working with the numbers and give the report or the tax return or whatever it is. Those of us that are really flourishing really look at the human side of things.
Yeah. And I mean, another thing for me is it's important for me that the client understands the process. They understand the why. Why did we do something? Why did we take this approach instead of another one? Why, whatever we did, it's important they understand and they're able to feel, what, this makes sense. And part of me, because I was a Montessori teacher in previous life, I love to break down complex, items and complex concepts, break them down and make them clear and bring clarity to the client.
That makes me think of the AI CPA has published the purpose of a CPA, which I think applies to all accountants, is making sense of a changing and complex world for our clients, and that aligns very nicely with that. We've talked about some of like the superpowers and some of the things. What do you think your superpower is?
I think my superpower would be is um, really, listening with empathy and trying to get trying to get the best answer, or the most fair answer in the process. Which actually, this is part of our due diligence. I don't know if you can say that this is superpower, but I think listening with empathy and making the client feel that they're heard, making the client feel that it's not all about the numbers. It's, we hear you. We hear what we hear what you're sharing. We hear, and then at the same time sharing that, at the end of the day, what we do is it's very objective, but being there, in the process, whether it's a selling or whether it's gift and estate, no matter what that purpose is, I think making that connection and listening with empathy.
I like that. I like that. Let's flip that over. If that's your superpower, what's her greatest weakness? Like for Supergirl, it would be kryptonite. So what's your
Yeah.
greatest weakness there?
Yeah, I think for me is trying to be perfect and sometimes spending too much time to try, maybe spending too much time on something that's already solid. For me to kind of having peace of mind, I want to make sure I dot the I's, I cross the T's, I review something not once, twice, I have a colleague review it, and then I have someone else reviews it.
Oh my goodness.
Because, at the end of the day, we're all humans, right? and you don't want something, you want to avoid any errors in the process. So I would say one thing that definitely is one of my weaknesses is trying to, spend too much time on something that's already been good, but just to give me a peace of mind.
And well, knowing you, since we actually not directly work together, but have at least been in the same office, I can see, yeah, I know you do good work for everything that you do. So, and that perfection, I think so many of us, even I till today, I want to see that. I want to see that in my staff. I'm like,
Yeah,
this is not perfect, but you kind of learn to like, okay, I got to trust the process,
that's right.
and at least if one other person's reviewed it, it's good.
Yeah, of course. I mean, when you're deep down in the weeds, sometimes you miss things, and you won't have to have two set of fresh eyes that haven't seen the work. Look at it, because they're going to see something you haven't seen. They're going to ask something you haven't asked, or you haven't even thought about. So it's very important that to have two sets of fresh eyes look at it. And it's great if you can have four sets of fresh eyes look at it.
Well, I think that also lends, you were talking earlier about the importance of the integrity of the work for the clients, right? And so having those eyes look at it and go, yes, I could stand behind this if this was my work. I could see that being very important as well.
I mean, whether it's IRS, you want to be able to support that, whether it's disputes, you want to be able to support in the court. So it's important you're able to stand behind your work and justify what you've done without any issues. That's really I think that's the integrity of what we do.
Well, you're making me definitely feel like if I ever sell my firm, or I guess it's going to be when, because I eventually will at some point, I want someone like you, if it's not you
Thank you.
yourself working on my account, definitely. If other people wanted to get in touch with you, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
LinkedIn. LinkedIn would be great to get in touch with me. And I think that's it. I don't share my work email, but LinkedIn would be good.
That's great. And then for people who are just listening, again, it was Baria, and it's Baria, and her last name was Jaroudi. I hope I said that right. Jaroudi. So
Yes.
find her on LinkedIn. Thank you so much for being with me today, Baria. And for those of you listening, thank you for listening today. I look forward to seeing all of you on another episode.
All right.
Take
Thank
care.
you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.
Pleasure's mine.
The Center for Accounting Transformation provides business professionals with a network for utilizing innovations that are ready for adoption, the training and resources necessary to apply those innovations, and an opportunity to engage the talent and community needed to further the pursuit of innovative accounting practices that drive responsible and mindful business performance. Find out more at our website, www.improvetheworld.net. And if you're interested in sharing your own transformation stories, please contact us there.